The year was 2020. I was hanging out in Bali with not a care in the world until suddenly...
The Italian government tonight put the entire country on lockdown.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
We will be suspending all travel from Europe.
After over 2 years since I last visited this island, one of my favorite places in the world, it's time to come back and discover what's new in Canggu. Alright guys, if you're new here, this channel is all about working remotely from destinations around the world. So if you're looking for information specifically for your next holiday in Bali, fortunately, this is probably not the video for you. For the rest of you guys, I'm going to provide an updated view on the remote work setup here in Canggu, almost 3 years after the global pandemic hit the island. Bali has obviously gone through a lot of changes since I started making videos here in 2016. So before we cover off what's new in Canggu, let's talk about some of the spaces which are sadly no longer with us. Most notably, my favorite co-working space, Dojo Bali, closed its doors on December 3rd, 2022, after its founder, Michael Craig, was unable to find a buyer to pass it on to. This was after acquiring another awesome co-working space by the name of Hubid in 2019, which unfortunately also since closed. Earlier last year, we also saw Conco close its doors due to financial issues. Apart from these two in Canggu though, there are still a few that are left standing, like Outpost Canggu, Tropical Nomad, Matra, and Zin Cafe. And in the place of Dojo and Conco, there are a few others that have popped up in the last few years. Let's take a look. Alright, so before we start covering off some of these spaces, I have to admit that some of them aren't actually in Canggu. Let me explain. If you type Canggu into Google Maps, which by the way, I'm trying to use the correct pronunciation this time, you can see a boundary around the area of Canggu. But when people are actually talking about Canggu in Canggu, they're actually talking about this general area. Just south of Canggu is Brawa, which has historically been my favorite area to stay in Bali. It's closer to Seminyak and a little less busy than the main Canggu area. To get to Canggu from here is pretty easy as long as you use a bike, given the famous Canggu shortcut, which, since the pandemic, has gone from a disheveled pathway to a properly paved road. So that's one thing I noticed that's new in Canggu. On the other side, just north of Canggu, is Perinan, an upcoming area that resembles what Canggu used to be. More rice paddies, more decrepit roads that are only suitable for motorbikes, and this is where the majority of the new spaces we'll cover in this video are located. If we zoom out of this general Canggu area, we can see Sese and Chamagi to the north, which is where the new Lost Creator House is located. Even though this house is technically not in Canggu, I wanted to flag it as a potential home just outside of Canggu, especially for other content creators in my audience. Built by the popular travel vlogger Christian LeBlanc, the location of the Lost Creator House is a sign that development is continuing up the coast of the island and that Chamagi could be the next Canggu. If we head back down south to Perinan, we have the new spaces of Boheme, Tribal, Lushy, and Puco Rooftop, most of which are not traditional co-working spaces. First up, Boheme is a stunning restaurant area connected to a hotel with a poolside view of the rice paddies. What makes this a co-working space is a single air-conditioned room that, honestly on a hot day, can still be kind of warm, and I discovered a few power outlet problems as well. At the end of the day, it's not a real fully featured co-working space, just an air-conditioned room at a restaurant. Next we got Lushy. It's a hostel with rooms surrounding a pool and a recreational area in the middle. The co-working space is again just a small air-conditioned room next to the pool. Strangely, this co-working space is, as far as I know, completely free. Next we've got Puco Rooftop, which is more of a traditional co-working space with proper office seating and air conditioning, but when I went in there, it was so packed that I either had to squish into a crowded meeting room or use the couch. Finally, Tribal is another hostel with co-working, except this time the co-working space is not confined to a small air-conditioned room. It appears to be super trendy and popular, but in classic Bali fashion, not the most functional space on days when the weather is hot or stormy. Just make sure to spend enough at the cafe to meet the requirements for use of the tables and Wi-Fi. Moving on to the central Canggu area, the closures mentioned at the start of this video have really thinned out the options here, but you've still got Zin Cafe, which is a great work cafe option, and of course you've got the fully featured BWork, which was the most impressive space I visited on this trip. BWork has a cafe, it has a pool, outdoor areas, indoor areas, meeting rooms, and even a rooftop yoga deck. If I was staying longer in Canggu, I would definitely have signed up and given BWork a try. This is of course not mentioning Tropical Nomad, which yes is still standing. You can find that one at the top of the Canggu shortcut. Now moving on to the Brawa area, you've still got Outpost and Matra, but now you've got Genesis Creative Center, Nebula, and Kinship Studios. Nebula is the odd one out here because it's more of an office space than a co-working space, prioritizing permanent desks over hot desking, but it does have some cool features, including a cold plunge and a sauna. Next up, Genesis Creative Center, located in Temora Gallery, is a multidiscipline creative center where the clean and comfortable co-working space sits separate to the other spaces for podcasting, course production, and music production. Finally, we've got Kinship Studio, which I don't have much to say on. The Wi-Fi was great, there's plenty of space, you've got a photo studio there for hire. Maybe it's a good option if you're looking for somewhere a little bit more artsy. I wanted to throw in this little extra section about gyms because if you're anything like me, you'll like to work out before or after your work day. And for me, that meant training at the new Soma Fight Club in Canggu, not far from the amazing CrossFit Wanderlust, which has expanded its offering so much that it's now called the Wanderlust Fitness Village. It's got everything you need, including a ton of space to work out, a cafe, a cold plunge, sauna, and a pool for chilling out. And then you've got Body Factory still here as well. Now, I didn't want to make this video all work and no play, so I thought I would throw in what I got up to on my second week in Bali as well, just quickly. I went to the boiler room party at Brisa on Christmas Eve, and then after Christmas, my friends from Australia arrived and we started dining out and partying. We went to my favorite beach club, The Lawn, for sunset, Mason for dinner, Finn's Beach Club for New Year's Eve, and in between we caught Axwell's set at Savaya, or Savaya, however you pronounce it, and that was it. A very fun few days to end the year, and the next day I was on my way back to Australia. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. If you got value from it, you know the drill, hit that like button, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one.